Let me tell you a story of someone I know, someone that I met many years long ago. He's played music for many all over this land, and he's special to me, the old accordion man. He's played reels for the dancing, for young and for old. He's had stories to tell as his memories unfold. And he's travelled the road, and I now understand why he's special to me, the old accordion man. He'll play songs that will take you away back in time, like Maggie, Dark Island, and Mother of Mine. But of all the fine medleys and songs he can play, Dark Loch na Garda stays in my heart today. Many years have gone by, but I still hear the sound as he played on the stage with the band all around. And his music has grown as he's travelled the land. He's respected by all, the old accordion man. He'll play songs that will take you away back in time, like Maggie, Dark Island, Mother of Mine. But of all the fine medleys and songs he can play, Dark Loch na Garda stays in my heart today.
Good afternoon, everyone. First off, I just want to say how honored I am to have been asked to do this today. Incredibly humbling. Aside from those of us here in person, we want to welcome those joining us online, overseas, other countries, family, friends. We're all here for Jack today. Jack Gordon leaves behind 4 children, 8 grandchildren, 6 great-grandchildren, 2 ex-wives, and several broken-hearted girlfriends. Jack was born in London, England in 1935 to a Scottish father and Irish mother. So he was English, Scottish, and Irish, but deep down inside, mostly Irish. Many people have fond memories of spending St. Patrick's Day with Jack, sharing a Guinness, dancing with him, or listening to him perform sing-along Irish songs on his squeeze box. Jack grew up in London during World War II with his older brother Pat and his younger identical twin brothers Alex and Mike. Thousands of civilians were killed and millions of houses destroyed by endless nightly bombings on the city. But Jack and his brothers made the best of it, even playing in the craters left by bombs that fell in Gladstone Park that their house backed onto. As a child, Jack would watch Spitfires and Messerschmitts dogfighting in the sky above him and would run for cover when he heard the Doodlebug V-1 rockets overhead while walking home from school. In his teens, Jack joined the Air Cadets, perhaps inspired by the dogfights he witnessed. Jack had always wanted to play a musical instrument, but instead he took accordion lessons. He used to watch the Pig and Whistle show for the wicked accordion solos. He loved to play for friends and family and even formed a band with his brother Pat and some friends. He also enjoyed going to dances at the Galtymore local dance hall in Cricklewood to listen to live music and dance the night away. It is there where he met Estelle in 1954, who would become his wife in 1957. On their first wedding anniversary, gave birth to his first son, the adorable baby Keith. I wonder who wrote this. Jack had dreams of becoming a cowboy, but instead apprenticed as a mechanical engineer. Shortly after graduating, he, Estelle, and adorable baby Keith emigrated to Canada. Initially, Jack could not find employment as an engineer, so in the meantime, he sold encyclopedias door to door. Sadly, most of that income went to pay for his appendectomy and related hospital bills when his appendix burst and he almost died. Happily, he soon got a job as a junior draftsman and eventually head designer with the Tamblyn Mitchell Partnership, one of Toronto's leading engineering firms. There he designed buildings such as ice hockey rinks and shopping malls. Jack was a dedicated employee, working long hours, but took enough time off to have 3 more children with Estelle. First, cute Carrie, then cuddly Kevin, and then angelic Karen. When asked why all 4 of his children's names started with the letter K, Jack replied, because Beef, Barry, Bevan, and Baron would sound strange if their names all started with a B. Unfortunately, due to downsizing during the recession in the 90s, Jack lost his job. However, he was able to retain steady employment as an independent consultant, working on hotel designs in Mexico, the United States, and the Bahamas. It is on Paradise Island in the Bahamas where Jack designed the Atlantis Resort and Casino, including a pyramid with an enclosed glass slide that went through an aquarium full of sharks. The sharks must have been frustrated at the humans sliding by so close out of reach. Damn you, Jack, I'm sure they would say. Due to the tragic events of 9/11 in 2001, there was not much new building design work available, and despite being offered a challenging job in Saudi Arabia to design an outdoor ice rink in average temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius, Jack retired full-time in 2005 at the age of 70. For 15 years, he was able to spend time watching his grandchildren become adults and watch his great-grandchildren come into this world. For those 15 years, as with his previous 70, he was able to enjoy music, family, friends, and live life to its fullest, and leave us with no regrets. We have a few people here who also have something to share this afternoon, so I'm just going to turn it over right now to Jim Barber.
Thank you very much, Buzz. And like Buzz, I am extremely honored to be here today to speak, not only on behalf of myself personally, but I believe I'm representing the community at large, particularly the arts and music community of Greater Napanee, of which Jack was not only a supporter, but a very, very active participant. He was the sort of person who, through just his enthusiasm for life and music and arts and culture, is essential for the creation of a dynamic and healthy arts community and culture scene in any community. We need people like Jack. I spent a number of years working within the local arts scene, chairman of the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee. I went to all kinds of events, and if there was any music being played anywhere, Jack was usually there, supporting, anxious to get up on stage with his accordion. He's the kind of people that we fundamentally need to have a vibrant, colorful, fun, loving community. I called him in the little missive I wrote on Facebook, institution and icon of the local scene. And I think that's true. When you think of the image of Jack, you walk into a jam session or an open mic, the image of Jack with the accordion slung around his neck, his eyes closed, leaning back, that's an iconic image you don't soon forget. And I think it's certainly representative of him, his passion, the power of music, and his sense of community and love of community. And so that's why I use that terminology, because that's the way I'm always going to picture Jack, is standing up in front with a little wry smile on his face, playing a Beatles tune or another tune he's learned. I can speak for the community, I believe, and say that we're going to miss his easy charm, his welcoming manner, his impish, somewhat mischievous demeanor, his approachability and his zest for life. He touched so many lives, probably way more than any of us realized and any more than he realized, which to me is the measure of the authenticity, the wholesomeness, and the genuineness of Jack. He was by any and all accounts a good man, a good father, and a good grandfather, and a good great-grandfather, who exhibited an unfailing, unflagging sense of joy in the simple pleasures of life. Friends, family, music, a good bevy, and a good yarn. The Loaf, Deadleaf, the Doghouse, the Waterfront, and countless other local stages and music venues will not be the same for Jack's absence, and we are all the poorer for it. But of course, we know that his spirit inhabits and will continue to inhabit each of those stages, each of those venues. Every time there's an open mic, every time there's a jam session, Jack's spirit is going to be there. If we all had glasses, I'd say, I think we're going to do a toast later, but I'd say let's raise one to Jack Gordon, and anytime we're out celebrating local music in Napanee, I think we all need to continue to raise a glass to Jack Gordon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Brianna Rose, if you would like to come up and share something with us right now.
Does this come down at all? Okay, she's feeling a little shy, so she wants to keep it on. Okay, here you go, Sadie.
Hi, my name is Brianna. Granddad is my great-grandpa. I miss him, and I will treasure all my memories with him forever. I am sad, and I wish he could be here with me right now. I'm really lucky I got to know him for a long time. He is a really good great-grandpa, and he always spoiled me with presents on my birthday and Christmas. I'm sad that I wasn't able to see him for my birthday this year. Before he went to the hospital, he got me a present to open a couple of days ago. It was a karaoke machine, and every time I sing with it, I think of Granddad. I have so many things I miss about him. Even though he lived far away, he came to every Christmas and birthday party that I had. I feel sad for my grandma because she really misses her dad. I hope everyone remembers him forever. He is so special to me. I love you, Granddad. Love, Brianna.
Thank you, Brianna. Karen Gordon.
Thank you. I'm only just going to have a chat with my dad, so you want to do something else or talk to your neighbor or whatever. I just want to have a chat with my dad. Dear Dad, if I had just 5 more minutes to talk with you. There are so many things I would tell you. I would tell you that you are a man like no other, that you gave me the greatest gift that anyone could give another person, that you believed in me. I'd thank you for the deep and fierce way that you loved and cared for me and for countless others who were blessed to be in your life. I would acknowledge that you gave me life, you nurtured me, you taught me, you dressed me, you fought for me, you held me, you shouted at me, you kissed me, you held me so tight, but most importantly, you loved me unconditionally. Dad, you were always there for me, a firm foundation through my storms of life, a sturdy hand to hold on to, a true friend to turn to, a pal, a confidant, and a mentor. Dad, I would tell you that you were the strength that my life was built upon. You were always my protector, my advisor, my guide. Dad, if I had just 5 more minutes to talk with you, I would tell you that you were my first love, and you were my forever hero. Dad, I want you to know that I will always cherish the time we had, the love we shared, and the example that you showed me of how to live your life with generosity, kindness, and boundless love to share, with a zest for life, a passion for music, and a deep love for family and friends. Dad, I will forever and always miss the sound of your voice, the stories you told, the ring of your laugh, and your presence that glowed. You will be in my heart, Dad, forever and always. Love, Shmarin.
Kevin, come on up.
Thanks. I don't know if I can follow that, Karen. I'll certainly try. So, Karen had a chat. I'm not doing a speech. I'm doing more of a salute. We'll call this a salute to my dad. And Dad always taught me that to be prepared, whether it's condoms, Viagra, but because you never know when you might need a good speech. He always said to have a good speech handy, so this I wrote a long time ago. So Dad, he was very much loved by many people. And today we have friends and family, as was mentioned earlier, viewing the service from places including England, Ireland, Germany, LA, and even Oshawa. So special thanks to everyone who's watching this live stream today and for joining us today, especially my Uncle Pat, who is the last of the 4 Gordon siblings. So my heart to Pat as well. You can choose to not to find joy in the snow, as we probably did today. However, you're not going to have any less snow, but what you will have is less joy. And Dad chose to find joy in everything he did, whether it was eating, drinking, music, family, or travel. Hakuna Matata, Carpe Diem. That to me was my dad's Latin Swahili philosophy. Sure, he may have got a little upset when someone would take his parking spot in front of the Loaf and Ale. But you could see the fun and the smiles that he always brought with him. He would never miss a beat on Halloween. He always came up with a great idea for a costume. And the one last year I remember was Hugh Hefner. That was a really good one. Dad lived his life well, and the people around him benefited from when they got to share in his jokes and his hugs and his music and his generosity. Sorry, and his laughter. Dad had 85 good years, except perhaps for a few during World War II, playing in where the bombs were. But obviously 59 of those years were excellent because I'm 59 years old. That's just a coincidence, I think. But growing up, I rarely recall seeing my dad get upset. He rarely got mad. His bark was much worse than his bite. And for sure, he would use these extremely threatening British phrases like to try and scare us. I'll flog you one. I'll clobber you. Try it again and see what you get. Don't make me stop this car or you'll be sorry. He wasn't a spanker. Well, at least he wasn't for me. Keith probably can't sit down to this very day. See, and besides, my mom, she was really already handy with the belt and the slipper and the wooden spoon and the nunchucks. So I could go on and on about the great stuff about my dad, but obviously the reason why you're all here today and the reason why people are watching around the world is because they already know that, and I don't think I need to say any more. However, I did come across this little poem that I think really reminded me of my dad very well, and who doesn't like a little poem, right? Happy the man, and happy he alone, he who can call today his own, he who, secure within, can say, tomorrow do thy worst, for I have lived today. Be fair or foul, or rain or shine, the joys I have possessed in spite of fate are mine. Not a soul on earth upon the past has power, but what has been, and I have had my hour. Rest in peace, Dad, I love you.
We'll invite Carrie to come on up. Just hold on.
No idea. I am just going to wing this. I will make it up as I go along. Just want to start off with before Dad came to Canada. We heard before that he had a young boy named Keith. And he looked at Keith and said, "We can do better than this." So let's go to Canada. So they came to Canada where they tried, and it seemed to work out much better. On the boat to Canada from London, my mom had a severe attack of seasickness and spent the entire trip in her cabin. Sorry, I probably can't hear me. Can you hear me now? That's why I'm not getting any reactions. So my dad ended up wandering the ship with baby Keith. And then women around the ship started to notice this man who was wandering around with the baby, and who obviously didn't know what to do with said baby. So they all jumped at the chance to help my dad nurture the young baby. ABC eventually came out with a show called Love Boat, so I won't go there. I think that came out about 10 years later. I think my dad made a killing on the rights for that. And then I remember I met my father when I was a baby, after he immigrated to Canada. Sometime when I was a baby, I remember meeting my dad. It took me 2 years to understand exactly what he was saying, because he had this English accent, sort of like I don't know, it was like the Artful Dodger, I guess. So after watching Oliver, I could sort of make out what my dad was saying. At first I was thinking, I didn't know what this guy was saying because I was Canadian after all, and I didn't understand the English language, the proper English language. But after a couple of years, I was able to communicate with him and have conversations by the time I was 2. We all know my dad loved to laugh. He enjoyed Monty Python, Benny Hill, Second City, some of the shows I remember. But the weird thing is, the time I remember him laughing the most and giggling the hardest, almost to the point of peeing his pants, probably was when he watched Snoopy. Charlie Brown and Snoopy. Whenever Snoopy did that dance and the laughing, my dad would be rolling on the floor laughing. He would almost have an attack. It was weird. That was the thing I remember him laughing at the most, but he had an amazing sense of humor. Now, we all know he plays accordion, and I don't recall exactly when I noticed that my dad was an accordion player, when the first time was. I remember he had this sort of keyboard thing on one side. On the other side, he had this sort of code decrypting device from World War II. Maybe Benedict Cumberbatch worked on some movie with Imitation Game. I don't know exactly what that thing did, but it looked like some kind of transcoder device. But my dad was able to make the machine breathe and play some great music. It seemed like whatever he played on it brought a lot more life to the song, brought more life to the party, and it was something that I appreciated. Because the accordion sound takes a little while to get used to, because sometimes if it's not played properly, it sounds like poorly inflated bagpipes. If you don't play it right. But my dad played it right from as far back as I remember. Like I said, I don't remember when exactly I figured out that he was one of those accordion player guys. But he always injected life into parties while playing accordion. If you ever heard my dad play at a bar, you were in for a great party. Through my dad's life, he became a bachelor at 2 different intervals. He had to become a chef of some type, develop culinary skills. I remember every time we asked him what was for dinner, he would say bread and pullet. And we always thought it was some kind of English dish involving breaded chicken or something. Maybe he's saying poulet, bread and poulet. But actually, we found out it was just taking a piece of bread and pulling it. It was bread and pullet. I guess you maybe dip it in something on special occasions. But he grew up with bread and pullet. So that's an English thing. So my dad was also an inventor. A lot of people don't know he came up with this invention, but when he came home from work, and he'd take off his tie, if he had a good day, he would take the fat end of the tie and whip us with it. He'd just sort of do like, and it would just go make a flop sound, and it would just be playing with us and teasing us. If he had a bad day, and we were, one of us was particularly bad on that day, he would use the thin end, and that would sting. It's like a whip. But we knew he was just playing. So I'm pretty sure my dad invented the flicking of the tie craze, which eventually turned into some kind of wet towel flicking craze in change rooms or something. He took credit for that. He told me he invented that. And we always thought it was something that was another one of those English things that he brought over with him. He also invented the accordion beer holder, but never quite figured out the spill to beer loss percentage as he was playing the beer holder. They kept adjusting where it was. And then the straw thing he was trying to play and drink beer at the same time. It was a wonderful thing. It went through about 4 different phases, but he eventually gave up. Someone made him give that up. My dad was also one of the first in our neighborhood to buy a modular stereo, which had separate speakers and an amplifier and a turntable. Everyone else had those all-in-one cabinet things. So people would come, mostly our friends would come around from the neighborhood and see our new stereo system, and we'd crank it up to 11, and we'd try to see, with the windows open, how far down the neighborhood we could hear the sound. So we'd play In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida or some Beatles tune, crank it up, and see how far that sound would travel. And that system, I think, lasted about 30 years or so. Okay, I think I read all the words that were on these papers, and which made paragraphs and sentences. In closing, my father lived an amazing life. In London, England, he flourished. In Canada, he thrived, and in Napanee, take two. His life began in London, England. He flourished in Canada and thrived in Napanee, where we are today, until his last breath. Someone tonight told me that your dad was always so young. He was age wasn't a thing, and I said, yes, he was only old for one day, and that's when he lost his life. To us, he was always young, and from all of the friends that know him would always mention how young he was and how he was the life of the parties growing up. We've always been proud of him on many levels, and I've never heard anyone say something bad about my father. Even my mother, his ex-wife, or past girlfriend. I don't recall anyone saying, does anyone recall anyone saying anything bad about Dad? Other than when they're whipping him with his tie. He has checked off all the boxes for what makes a great father, and he went beyond any category the check mark would represent. In closing, we always will love you, Dad, and we miss you. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie, and you nailed it on the head. I think, I know I can speak for my wife Gwen and me, one of the reasons we've been so stunned about this is Jack seemed too young, you know? Keith, come on up.
So we heard Karen talk about her conversation to Dad today, and I know we're going to have lots of conversations with him still every day. And I remember he told me that I could talk to him about anything, and I remember asking him, when the Leafs were going to win the Stanley Cup. And he said, well, do I have any other questions, maybe something easier? And I said, well, can you explain women to me? And he said, well, let's talk about the Leafs. And then Kevin talked about Dad and the spanking not being much of a spanker, but obviously Mom didn't tell him about their honeymoon. And Carrie talked about us coming over on the boat, and I guess apparently on this ship, my dad and I were the only two who weren't seasick, and I was only 3 months old, so I don't remember much, but I do remember because my mom and dad spoke this different language that they call English and not Canadian, and going to school and, saying to the kids in kindergarten, my dad stinks of fags, and do you have any crisps? And nobody knew what I wanted. I had to learn to speak Canadian. But I'd like to thank all my friends and family that called me this week and sent messages of love, and thanks to all the friends that sent flowers or dropped by with food or gift certificates for food, and thanks to the friends who stopped in and actually had a toast to Jack or who wanted to come over but couldn't make it for one reason or another, and special thanks to Jane and Carrie and Kevin and Karen and Rio and Tierra and my mom for being here for me and for being here for all of us. It's been a tough time. We lost Dad and his brother, my Uncle Mike, within a short period, so it's been unusual. Thank you, Buzz, for being here and making us laugh on this sad day, and to Lindsay and his staff all here to make this remembrance so easy for us. Thanks, Jim, for your amazing words and for letting us put some of your words inside the order of service that people have here today. Thanks to everybody who came today to the visitation and who are here now and watching this from far off. I feel your love and all your positive energy. I truly appreciate it. I'd like to think that living in Napanee for 20 years, a lot of people know me, and I play in a lot of local bands, etc. And every once in a while, somebody'd stop me in the streets and say, "Oh, I know who you are," and I'd say, "Yeah." They'd say, "Yeah, you're Jack's son." And it shows how well liked and how well known he was, and as Jim and Buzz said, how well everybody loved him in this town that been here for 10 years, and from 75 to 85, he lived full. You know, can you imagine if we could do that from just 45 to 55, or 55 to 65, or 65 to 75? He did it from 75 to 85, and no, a lot of us couldn't keep up with him. Since Dad passed away, I've been happy and I've been sad. I'm happy that he was a great father and a wonderful man, and I'm sad that he smoked for 70 of his 85 years, which undoubtedly contributed to his weakened lungs and their inability to battle off that pneumonia infection. He may have lived for another 5 years, another 10, 15 years. We'll never know. But I do know that our first-class healthcare system failed him, not because of inefficient healthcare service providers, but because of their fear of COVID. Their fear of catching COVID is a higher priority to them than their commitment to comforting sick people and saving lives. Can you imagine if a firefighter was too scared to go up a ladder while you're dying in a burning building because they didn't know if you had COVID or not? Can you imagine if you're getting mugged or robbed on the streets and a policeman's too scared to help you because you might have COVID and they don't want to go near you? I have no doubt that more people have died because of COVID than have actually died who have COVID. But please don't let that happen to you or your loved ones. Lots of nice things have been said about Dad today and the amazing man that he was. I don't have much more to add. No words can bring him back, but we all have so many amazing, fond memories of him. I had promised my Uncle Mike that Dad, from a God-fearing Irish Catholic family, would receive the last rites, but his last breath came too quick, and I saw his life slowly fading in the hospital ICU and was helpless to do anything about it. If there is a heaven, Dad will certainly be met with open arms. You can't do anything when someone is dying, but you can while someone is living. So never put off spending time with family and friends while they're here. You have no way of knowing if the last time you'll see them will be the very last time you'll see them. So spend as much quality time as you can. So if Dad's sudden death teaches us to live for the moment, then he has not died in vain. Thanks. I love you all.
Thank you, Keith. And by the way, those words are coming from a former employee of Ontario Health. Joseph Skillicorn, please.
My name is Joe, and my wife's name is Joe. Now, generally we don't get confused with each other, but who was going to speak? Where is the script? At least it'll be small. At least it'll be short. Anyway, I'm very happy and honored to be able to speak about Jack and to his family. Joe and I go back quite a while to the whole Gordon family. Josephine worked with Jack's brother Mike in England, in London, and we got to know Jack's parents, Nan and Charlie, very well. We had a lot of time in their house, and so when we were coming to Canada, I said, we know this guy Jack, you should look him up. So 1968, we arrived in Canada, and the only name we had was Jack Gordon, so we looked him up. And looking at the sign, live your life like Jack, Jack was, so we went up to Willowdale, and there's Jack, has 4 kids. We were early 20s. I thought he seemed so mature, and he was mature, but he's also young. I don't know that Jack played rugby. Did your dad play rugby? Did he play? I don't think he played rugby, but he swore every Friday, every Saturday, and every Sunday for a long time. We went to parties, these rugby parties with Jack. So
He helped the rugby team build their clubhouse.
I'm sure he did. And Jack was very, even though we had 4 kids, it would have been, again, back in history, 1969. Josephine says to me, Jack's got this cottage in Algonquin Park, and he's invited us to go up. So, okay. So we go up to Algonquin Park. I guess we had some idea. Get up there, and I say, so, Joe, where's the cottage? She says, what's in I think she thought it was like a parquet in East York, and there'd be one. So it's like, really? So it became like a scene from that movie, you know, Titanic. There was Jack. We never did find that cottage. Nevertheless, talk about Jack and the party and the fun. He was also a wonderful person to have if you needed help. You know, Joe and I, we had our own family, you have houses, you have jobs, and anything that you needed to talk to someone, Jack would be a great person to talk to, and I valued that. Another thing about Jack, you know, as I say, we had family. You don't see, we didn't see Jack as much as we did in those party days, but that didn't matter. You could turn up 5 years later, Jack he wouldn't say, where have you been? It would just be like, you know, today's my 70th birthday, today's my 80th birthday. So it was great. Jack, I know you're a great musician, so all I can say is, rock on, Jack.
So I have a few words of my own I want to share, but before I do that, anyone else, you're more than welcome. If you want to come up and say something, give me a wave. If not, I'll continue on. But anybody, if they want to come up and share something, just say, hey. Or if you think of something while I'm chatting, feel free to come on up afterward. I'm going to go off script just for a moment here. I can't remember how many years ago I met Keith, but as anyone else who's met Keith, you're not sure at first kind of how to take him. He's got a very unique sense of humor, and sometimes it's difficult to tell when he's being serious or if he is ever serious. And then meeting his siblings and whatnot, I see that maybe it's a genetic thing. And but after I met, I won't put it on you, Estelle. But my point being is, when I met Jack, it all made sense. That you know, Jack just had this ability to take everything in stride, and I think I'm kind of reiterating what's been said. He never really seemed to let anything get to him too much, and obviously that trickled down into his kids. So good on you, Jack. I will wrap things up in just a moment, but I want to share a few things that have been on my heart this week. First of all, I think most of us locals will agree when life gets back to whatever normal is, there is definitely going to be a definite void at the local gatherings, the live shows, the house parties. If something was going on in Napanee that involved live music and readily available Guinness, you could pretty much count on seeing Jack there. I was always so impressed with the relationship that Jack had with his family. He often seemed more like Keith's drinking buddy or his concert buddy rather than his old man. I remember going to Montreal with Keith, Tierra, and Jack for a Sum 41 show. You know, he wasn't exactly pounding his fist in the air, but I could tell he was thoroughly enjoying himself. And I had to wonder what, you know, some of the other fans there thought about seeing a guy, you know, a wee bit on in his years at a Sum 41 show. I later learned, and one of my daughters told me this, that the band has a few fans of the female persuasion who are very familiar with who Jack is. He's Derek's grandpa. a celebrity unto his own right. You know, we can't help it when a loved one passes on, you know, whether we consider ourselves a believer or not, we can't help but wonder whether there is something beyond all this. Is this really the end? Personally, in my own experience, I've become convinced that there is indeed more to come after we're done here. I had a late-night conversation with Keith and Jane on this very topic just a couple nights ago over a couple of fingers of some really good scotch. And we were talking about the topic of belief itself. And this is my take. There seems to be this idea that belief in and of itself will shape your destiny beyond this world. In other words, I'm a believer, therefore I will continue to live on in heaven, or I believe I'll come back to this world and live another life, or I don't believe in any of that, so when I go, that's it. But here's the thing, and again, this is just me. If I'm driving east on the 401 with no intention on stopping for several hours, I will eventually get to Quebec. It doesn't matter if I believe it or not. It's the next province over. Whether I like it or not, I'm going to end up in Quebec, despite the fact that I lived a good life. It could be worse. I could be going the other way and end up in Manitoba. What I'm saying is, and again, this is just my opinion, I'm not looking to convert anybody here today, but I think these are the things worth giving some thought to at the very least. If there is another realm beyond this one, call it heaven, eternity, or an alternate universe or dimension or whatever, I kind of think that it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. You're going to go wherever that next destination is. Despite all that, it still hurts incredibly to say goodbye, even if it is just see you later, which I believe it is. And if I'm wrong, at the very least, that anticipation to be reunited with our loved ones makes it so much easier to continue putting one step in front of the other while we're still here. Love is an incredible phenomenon. We love to love. We love to be loved. But with love comes inevitable heartache, because chances are, at some point you will have to let that person go. And I think that must have been the inspiration behind a poem that was written by, as Keith would say, one of our people. It was written about 900 years ago by a Hebrew poet named Judah Halevi. "'Tis a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, to hope, to dream, to be, and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing to love what death has touched." Before to share something, come on up.
Hello, everyone. I didn't plan on speaking. I didn't write anything. But it was just so nice to hear all the nice things that everyone had to say. I just felt like I should say something too. He meant a lot to everybody here. And he was just gonna be so sad. I just keep thinking, where's Granddad? He's late to the party. Why isn't he here yet? But that's just not gonna happen anymore. He's not gonna come over for Christmas this year, for example, and that's just gonna be really hard. And people who get to live in Napanee and who got to see him on a regular basis, I'm sure it's really gonna leave a hole, and I really feel that. We don't live here in Napanee. We saw him on special occasions like birthdays and holidays, and he was just always there. He was just always happy and loving and generous, too generous. And he loved his family. He loved his grandkids, his great-grandkids. And he just really was a wonderful man. And I know everyone here knows that, but I just feel like I had to say something on behalf of my little part of my family, that we are gonna miss him very much, and we feel very lucky to be, that he was our grandfather and that he got to meet our little girls. We got to contribute to the expansion of the family, and he got to know them and hold them and meet them, and that means a lot, that he was here, and we definitely lost him too soon. It doesn't feel real, and I just want to say that I'll miss you, Granddad, and we love you very much, and yeah, I hope you're at peace wherever you are. Thank you.
Thanks, Rio. Before we wrap it up then, was there anybody else that wanted to share anything? Last chance, Jerome? Okay.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, he was a good man. I just want to tell a story about probably the first or second time I met Jack, 2007 or 8. First time I met him, I was with Rio for at least 2 years before I met him. And, you know, somebody said, this is Rio's boyfriend, and looked at me and shook my hand. And I thought, oh, geez, that's Grandpa. I got to watch this guy. And over the years, I kid you not, as he got to know me and I married Rio and life went on, and every time I met that man, Jack, it was a hug. And you could feel the love. So when she says, we're going to miss him, we're going to miss him. As the patriarch of a family, he was a quiet, calm. Like I said, I don't think anybody ever said anything bad about that guy. And I held him in high esteem. So rest in peace, Jack. We love you.
Thanks, Jerome. Do you want to come on up?
Sorry, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to say anything today. It's very emotional. Thanks, Keith. You've always been my biggest fan. So I remember about 10 or 12 years ago, we were at my Uncle Kevin and my Aunt Michelle's cottage, and I believe Grandma was there, and of course Granddad was there because he never missed anything. And I had drinking far too much, which doesn't happen a lot. And I started crying, and I was crying and sobbing, and he was sitting beside me, and he's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I just said, it's just so hard for me to even think that one day you guys won't be here. You and Grandma and Grandpa, you're not going to be here. He said, oh, stop acting like an idiot. And it's just so hard for me to believe that time is gone and like he's not here now. And it feels like just yesterday I was saying that to him, that one day it's going to be so weird that you're not here anymore. And now the time is here and he's just gone. And it's just still so hard to fathom. When my sister and I were kids and my mom was a single mom, he loved my mom so much. He always did so much for her. He would come over to our house every week for dinner, and he always brought a grocery bag with chocolate bars. It always had Bounty bars in it. And so whenever my sister and I ate Bounty bars over the years, we've always thought of my granddad. And then when we became teenagers and my granddad was working in the Bahamas, he let my mother and my sister and myself and my brother live at his townhouse for years. So in the townhouse that my mom and my uncles grew up as teenagers in. And they have furniture as my mom and her and my uncles and their friends. So memories. And when he came back from Bahamas before he went to Mexico, he lived with us. So we all lived together in the same house. And because of his hearing, I remember one time I was standing in front of my dresser, and I was a teenager, and I was not wearing anything and doing my makeup and my hair, and there was a knock, and I said, hold. So and it was just, I'll never forget that time because it was just so embarrassing. Crazy teenager, and I was messy and slobby, and he would yell at me for leaving my socks all over the place. But overall, it was so fun living with him that short time because I really got to know him, and he had all of his music stuff set up downstairs. And at that time, I used to sing a lot. I don't sing so much anymore in my older years. I know, disappointing, but. He wanted to help me practice. And so me to practice, and he heard me sing. This is the first time he really heard me sing for the first time. He was just like, whoa, you can actually sing. Like, he didn't know that I could. And you can just see like the look on his face of like how happy he was. Like, you can really sing. And we practiced for weeks and weeks, and he was just there with me the whole time just practicing. And he was front row at my show when I sang. It's just, I remember him being there for everything. Every single birthday, every single Christmas. It's going to be so strange not having him around. And I told my son is 6.5 years old. And when I told him that Granddad was no longer with us, he was sad. He said, oh, Mom, but Granddad gets the best. And I said, I know. Like, I know, but I think that was his way of just, coping with it, and obviously he's very sad too. But I just want to say that I love him very, very much, and very sad that he's gone and that we'll never see him again, but he lived a great life, and I would like to thank everybody in Napanee really for taking him under your wings over the last 10 years, because I think he enjoyed his life so much here. And I thank you all so much for really, really being there for him and making the last 10 years of his life so enjoyable. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yeah, come on up, Estelle.
Off the cuff, because I would think out of everybody in this room, I probably knew Jack the longest. We met when I was 2 weeks before I was 16. He baby snatched, and he was 18. And for the next 15 or so years, I can't say it was smooth sailing. He came from a devout Catholic family. I came from a Jewish family, not devout, but still Jewish. So on the one hand, we had his mother saying, go find a nice Irish girl, and my family saying, go find a nice Jewish boy. So we got to get together. These guys don't want us together, so that's what happened. And the reason we ended up coming here was the biggest reason. They still had the national call-up in England back then, even though it was long after the war, and he was due to be called up for 2 years in the army, but he got deferred because he got an apprenticeship. And when that was finished, when he was 21, he had to report, and he kept saying, I have bad ears, and me. No, I can't hear anything. Well, the doctor in the army, you hear me fine. So got his call-up papers, and we said, well, I had 2 sisters that had already come here, said how great it was. We figured we had no choice. His mum said me and Keith could go live with her while he was 2 years in the army, and I didn't know if that would be good or bad. So I didn't know if it would be good for her, bad for me, or bad for me, and good for her, the other way around. Anyway, we decided we would come to Canada. And the day we sailed for Canada, he had got the letter. He was supposed to report to his barrack that day. And we're going there, the ship's going out, and we're watching for the MPs running down the dock, coming after him. But anyway, we made it, never heard anything more. He didn't know MPs came after him. And I feel, and I'm sure he felt, that the best thing he ever did was coming over here. Very hard to leave family for both of us. We tried to get back as much as we could. And that's it. And on the boat coming over, I know you said one of us was seasick, which it was me. I was very sick, and Keith was 3 months old in this little carry cot we carried around. I was told by the ship's doctor, don't breastfeed while you're sick. They gave me formulas from the nursery to give you. I would flake out on the chair, and your dad would be carrying you around. And when I was feeling better, and I could get up and walk around with him, so we're walking around, and these women would be waving from the chairs. Jack, how's the baby? I said, that's why you wanted to take the baby around. Bring him here, Jack, we'll feed him. I said, that's funny, when I was fine, nobody wanted to feed him. But anyway, that was him. He was born with music in his soul, I have to say. I don't know if it's the Irish. His mom and dad didn't play musical instruments, but his brother Pat, as you know, did. And I think he was born with an accordion. He tried once to teach me how to, you got to teach me. It looks so, I've never seen somebody play the accordion and never ever looked. Do you notice that? Never looked at his hands. How would you know what you're playing? You're not looking. He was going to teach me one day. He said, okay, pick it up. What? I couldn't even pick it up. So that was the end of my lessons. But anyway, he left me 4 the most wonderful things ever. And that's what about us? Well, but this wasn't the right time to tell you. But anyway, I'm so thankful for you all and for the beautiful family. Thank you, bud.
Thanks, Estelle. Anybody else? Anyone at all? Sure, come on up. Thank you.
So I wasn't planning on speaking today. I know a few people weren't planning on speaking and decided to, and I figured I'd jump on the bandwagon and wait till all the good stuff was said before I could just reiterate a few things, and hopefully by telling a little story I will be able to do that. So my granddad was just a really big inspiration to me in so many ways, just from the way that he was always there as a family member, always there for everybody, every birthday, every Thanksgiving, every Christmas. he would always try to do something for every single person that he could, whether it was, the youngest grandchild or the oldest son. And one of my fondest memories to this day, not just of him, but just of all time really, is being able to go to Ireland, where his heart was, and see his hometown really of Monastown out in Ireland, and be able to walk through the mountains, the Wicklow Mountains, with him and with his brother Pat, and just being able to sit in an Irish pub in Dublin and share a Guinness with him. Some of the best Guinness out there, I've got to say. And he always pushed me to live with a light heart and with a good soul and kindness towards others, and to never think about what bad things might happen, but to just do what you can today. And I just wanted to reiterate that and make sure that you all know that that's how he would want us all to live, the way that he lived. And my grandma pointed out that this is actually the Gordon Tartan, and he left this behind, and I just have to thank him for letting me have this, for leaving this to me, and I will carry on that legacy and try my best to live my life the way that he lived his. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, then let me just close with a short little comment, and it kind of resonates among what has mostly been said, but I can't help but think now more than ever, we need more of Jack in this world. And I know those who knew him will continue to let his influence resonate from them, and I'm better for having known Jack. He was a calming presence just to hang with, and we're going to miss him. Thanks for coming out, everybody.